If you're ready to level the playing field with grading student assignments, rubrics are a clear winner. Rubrics are a scoring tool that outline the specific expectations of a course assignment or an entire program. Rubrics create an objective system by providing clear expectations for a task, thereby helping to level the playing field for students. They're also useful in determining proficiency as well as providing explicit feedback. This video focuses on the development of grading rubrics for assessing student performance at the course level and addresses the types of rubrics, their applications, and instructions on how to create them. Let's dive in. Rubrics are a grading tool used to display performance criteria and levels of achievement. A rubric is often formatted in a matrix table. Rubrics can be used to assess various types of student work such as essays, reviews, performance pieces, or presentations. There are many benefits to using this type of grading tool, including providing expectations, improving instructor feedback, and providing grading consistency for student achievement. A clearly written rubric can express instructor expectations and provide students a clear reference for success as they are completing a course assessment. When rubrics have well-defined criteria, levels of quality, descriptors, and accurate scoring, evaluating student learning becomes that much easier. Let's review the anatomy of a rubric before we go into the types and steps to develop one. There are 4 main components to rubrics, which are often presented in a grid. Performance criteria, or a set of required demonstrable attributes in which students' submissions will be graded. Levels of quality, a descriptor or numerical score for the levels of quality within the continuum from beginner to mastery. Descriptors, indicators or descriptions of the level of quality for each performance criteria along the continuum. And rubric scores, a point value for individual descriptors, usually resulting in a letter grade. There are different types of rubrics, but their rubric components are the same, regardless of the style or type. The type of rubric selected for an assessment often determines how the information is presented in the table grid. There are 2 primary types of rubrics used in student assessment, holistic and analytic. To aid in selecting which rubric fits the assessment and the course needs, we'll highlight these rubrics, their differentiators, benefits, and suggestions for use. In a holistic rubric, each descriptive level of quality describes all the demonstrated criteria and qualities within the single scoring level, from least, 1 or F, to most exemplary, 10 or A+, describing levels of mastery for a particular level rather than for individual criterion. Holistic rubrics are recommended for summative assessments when determining overall quality, for example, the final submission of a course portfolio with revised items that were graded before submission, on assignments where there is no definitive correct answer, such as a video introduction assignment, or they can be used when the class size is larger and quicker grading needs to be done, and the focus is on overall proficiency. Analytic rubric contain performance criteria that address individual attributes and provide a detailed descriptor for each level of quality. Summative and formative student learning assessments can benefit from an analytic rubric. It is recommended to use analytic rubrics when providing a common framework and language is paramount to maintaining consistency across scores, when the rationale for grading requires detailed feedback, or when there is a need to determine student performance on various assignment components. Analytic rubrics are by far the most popular rubrics for assessing student learning at the individual assignment level. Analytic rubrics provide useful feedback on areas of strengths and weaknesses, provide students with a reflective tool, and allow individual criteria to be weighted to reflect the relative importance of each dimension. Although the analytic rubric may take more time to implement, they reinforce criterion reference grading rather than comparative grading, providing more consistent and equitable grading for students, thus leveling the playing field. Keeping rubric types in mind aids in determining assignments that might benefit from their use. Considering all the characteristics, tasks, and expectation outlined in your assignment will help you determine whether a rubric is needed and also help you determine which rubric is right for a particular assignment. Examples of assessments that benefit from rubrics include research papers, group projects, peer reviews, portfolios, presentations, labs, or procedurals. Before developing a rubric, it is recommended to determine whether the assignment warrants this grading tool. For example, you might develop a robust analytic rubric for peer-to-peer feedback, but use a holistic rubric for your own grading of a similar assessment. Before developing a rubric, follow step 1 of the development process outlined below. Although rubric design can vary across discipline and assessment, the following steps are applicable to develop all types of rubrics. Before you begin building the rubric, identify what students should do or accomplish within the assignment, and examine the learning objectives and applicable course outcomes aligned to the assessment. The next 4 steps involve developing the main components of the rubric we described earlier. Begin by determining the demonstrable attributes or performance criteria that you are assessing within the assignment. In analytic rubrics, these descriptive criteria are presented in the left column of a table. In holistic rubrics, these might be numerical. The criteria should describe the task, behavior, or elements students are expected to demonstrate within the assignment. The next step is to define the levels of quality. These can address levels of mastery of the demonstrated work. This is represented as a scoring column for holistic rubrics or appears in the top row for analytic rubrics. One example of the levels of quality might be beginning, developing, accomplished, and exemplary. As you determine levels, it might be helpful to review past examples of student work and differentiate between A and C work, for example, by recording the qualities that exemplify those levels. This helps the next step, which is writing individual for analytic or combined for holistic narrative descriptors with identifiers for criteria. Analytic rubrics present row cells for each criteria level. While you develop accurate and generalized descriptor for each rubric level, determine the value you might set for the described identifiers. Once you have an idea of the values for each level, the next step is to set a score for each level of quality and degree of competency. This is presented in a numeric point value for the criteria levels for analytic rubrics, or in a descriptive column for the holistic rubric, where mastery would be the highest numerical score. All the criteria would be addressed within a single scoring level for a holistic rubric. It is vital to develop a point value that allows you to accurately grade the student's work and represent the intended letter grade. And the last step in developing a rubric is to ensure it is accurately measuring your aligned course outcomes and learning objectives for the assessment. One strategy for cultivating a reliable rating rubric is to practice using the rubric on prior assignments. Regrading a prior assignment ensures grading consistency within the rubric criteria and contributes to a reliable assessment of the objectives you expected the student to achieve. An additional strategy for ensuring the rubric measures the assessment accurately would be to involve students in the creation process. Students can evaluate the components of their rubric for accuracy or provide alternate descriptors, criteria, or levels that are being assessed within a particular assignment. The next part of the process is implementing and revising the rubric in real time. Now that the rubric has been developed and tested, it's time to share the rubric with your students. Sharing the rubric allows students the opportunity to self-evaluate using the assignment's relative criteria, qualitative indicators, and associated scores. Building a rubric into a Moodle activity can streamline the grading process. Using the rubric in Moodle makes providing feedback with grading easy. In addition to grading the assessment and syncing to the gradebook, instructors also have the option to leave individualized comments on students' work in Moodle. Rubrics can be added to your course syllabus, assessment instructions, and created directly in Moodle for certain Moodle activities through the Advanced Grading Rubric feature. Once you've built a grading rubric in Moodle, a publishing feature allows the user to view, select, and add the rubric to one or multiple assignments. This feature can be useful when developing a general rubric used across a set of assignments, such as forums. This concludes the Rubrics for Grading video. For more information on the technologies covered in this video, visit groq.lsu.edu. If you have any Moodle or technology-related questions or would like assistance, please contact the Faculty Technology Center at 225-578-3375, option 2. Email at ftc@lsu.edu